I got the chance to sit down with literally one of the smartest people that I know and trust in the Amazon space. This person worked at Amazon, they worked for a major aggregator, they've built their own brands, and they've helped others exit. To harness all the value in this person's brain in a single interview unlocked incredible nuggets for my business, and I'm sure yours as well. This is a highlight reel of the 15 Amazon hacks that you probably don't know about and that this discussion is going to unlock for you. Let's go. All right, guys. Well, welcome to another episode of the Seller Sessions podcast. And this one's going to be special, and it's special for a number of different reasons. I've got literally one of my favorite people in the Amazon space joining us here today, John Derkits. In addition, honestly, becoming one of my good friends in the space, he has a really interesting and compelling background. For those that are on audio podcast form, you can't see his backdrop, but there's a poster of the Vitruvian Man. He is literally a real life Vitruvian Man. He's worked at Amazon. He's worked at an aggregator. He's built his own brands. He's bought his own brands. He's helped people exit. He is literally one of the smartest people I know. And one of my favorite things to do in life, and certainly in the Amazon space, is literally just to hang out and learn from people that are orders of magnitude more smart than I am. He's wicked smart. He's an amazing human being and shares some of the most valuable info. So I hit up John, I don't know, I want to say a week or two ago. I said, hey man, I got to bring you on. He's got a new newsletter, which we'll obviously talk about here on the pod, but just dropping tons of value on LinkedIn and the newsletter. I said, dude, I want you to come on and literally just hit us with the highlight reel, give us the best of the best. And he agreed to put together a presentation here. We're going to go over about 15 different things. But with that being said, I know you're a humble guy, John, but welcome to the pod, and let me know if you need to fill in any gaps from my intro there.
No, that was an awesome intro, Adam, and you flatter me. I think I'm deserving of maybe half of the things that you layered on me there. But I told you before we started recording, I love talking to you. It's truly like minds, talking shop, learning from one another. I learn a ton from you too. So this is kind of a way of giving back, and I'm excited to share this. I'll maybe give the audience, both watching and listening, a little bit of background on what inspired this. Like you said, you reached out to me about kind of doing something together a couple weeks back. At the time, I was doing a cash flow series in my newsletter, which I like money. You like money. A lot of people like money. And I don't think enough people talk about how challenging it can be to manage cash in an Amazon business. So I wanted to shine a light on that. I want to educate people, talk about things like cash conversion cycles, your free cash flow margin and how to calculate that. And, as we were kind of riffing on what we do here, the thought of talking about cash flow for a half hour or an hour, I was a little worried was going to put people to sleep. So took a hard right turn and thought to myself, what would be interesting, engaging. The inspiration for this actually came while I was road tripping over the weekend, sitting in the car, driving through beautiful Indiana. I guess I don't want to offend any Indianians, any Hoosiers out there. Was driving through Indiana, probably 3 cups of coffee deep, and the ideas were just flowing. And so it was sort of spontaneity that led to this topic. It was kind of me saying, well, what are some of the cooler things that I'm doing in my business that I can share with your audience? It's how we got from where we were to where we are today. And I'm excited to jump into it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, man. So for folks listening, we're actually going to be playing some slides that we'll throw in the show notes. So you can download these after if you're driving in the car or listening at work, whatever. You can grab these later for reference. And John will do his best to really kind of verbally bring the visuals to life. So you don't need to have the slides, but we'll include those down below. And be sure to stay to the end. We got a couple nuggets that John will share with us for carrying on this conversation if you want more value. But with that said, John, I'll pass it over to you, man. Let's just hammer out these highlights. I learned so much from just scanning this stuff. I'm looking forward to the conversation. I think that most of the stuff you're going to hear over the next, 20, 30 minutes, you probably have never heard before. So pumped to pass over to you, John, and we'll get cracking.
So like I said, these are my 15 road trip hacks that will actually increase your bottom line. One of the things that I wanted to do with this was blend this notion of cash flow in your Amazon business and kind of the advanced seller tactics. And the unfortunate reality is a lot of time advanced tactics come at a cost. So I wanted to challenge myself to come up with things that any seller could do on any budget to give them an edge. So that's the backdrop. This is the basic framework. Retail math. Traffic times conversion times average order value. I write about this a lot. I talk about this even more. You'd be hard pressed to hang around me and not hear me utter the phrase retail math. It's gotten to the point where they will probably be the words that I utter on my deathbed, for better or worse. So I wanted to not only give people hacks here, but a framework on which to kind of hang these hacks. because, the Amazon space is so complicated. There's so many things to keep track of. But if you have useful frameworks that you can come back to time and time again, it's scaffolding, right? It brings everything together. So the retail math that will be the backdrop of all of our hacks, like I said, is revenue equals traffic times conversion times average order value. And then we kind of go down the P&L there. What are the costs, the product cost related hacks, platform cost related hacks, and free cash flow hacks? So that's how we'll go over these next 15 hacks and kind of keep coming back to this framework. So starting with traffic, hack number 1 is what I call my Amazon Posts infinite content hack. The basic problem that this hack is solving is Amazon is kind of stingy and restrictive when it comes to Amazon Posts. They use a pretty sophisticated content filter to ensure that you're not just reusing the same images in all your posts, which is honestly kind of sucky for a lot of sellers, because a lot of sellers do not have a huge library of stock images. They don't have a huge library of their own creatives. If they want to go out and get user-generated content, it does come at a cost. And so what I challenged myself with early on with some of my businesses that honestly were smaller was, how can I use the same images over and over and trick the content filter? So the hack here is really the different ways that you can change your existing images that you've already used for Amazon Posts and bypass the content filter. And what I've listed here are just a handful. You're really just limited by your own creativity here, but you can take the exact same image, mirror it or flip it, and you'll get past the content filter. You can add a logo, you can add a banner. Sometimes the banners get kicked back, but try again. Add borders. I like to add different filters and kind of trick the content filter that way. I'll stretch images, I'll rotate images. And really one of my favorite kind of hacks within a hack here are to commission a user-generated content video. You can get really cheap ones for $30, $40 using a platform like Join Brands, or searching for an Amazon influencer. I had an Amazon influencer create a video for a 3-minute product review video for me for $40, and I tipped her another 10. But for $50, I had a 3-minute video plus basically infinite content, because I would just go through, or my VA went through and just took stills of every frame in that video. And those were my Amazon posts. So the hack here is understanding that when Amazon tells you no, that's just kind of their first level answer, and there are ways around that. So I literally have my VA spend an hour at the beginning of every month coming up with 30 posts, 30 days worth of Amazon post content, and she loads it up, schedules it. For the captions, ChatGPT. Most of the time we just do riffs on kind of our existing brand taglines, and that's how we get a bunch of content up for very cheap. If you think about what I or others pay VAs, maybe it's $5, $7 an hour, $5-7 for 30 days worth of Amazon post content. And there's a whole host of reasons you want Amazon posts, from owning more page real estate to attracting brand followers to actually driving sales. But at the end of the day, the more content you can put out, the better. So that's kind of the basic first level Amazon posts infinite content hack.
Awesome, man.
Hack number 2, we're still talking about traffic hacks. And this hack is sort of a combination, a consolidation of different things that have come to me from different people that I just put my own spin on. So the hack is to stack Amazon influencers or Amazon associates, whatever you want to call them, plus your attribution links. And there's a specific way of combining all the tagging URLs, which you can see in the live video here. Step 1 of this hack is to identify Amazon influencers. I used to do this in a very manual way, searching for a very specific URL type, and then looking for YouTube influencers or YouTubers that were also Amazon associates. Gosh, what was it? Maybe 3 months ago, Adam, when Brett launched AMZ Rolodex.
Yeah, love it.
A mutual friend of Adam and I's, Brett Burkaw, who is a wizard in his own right, created an Amazon influencer, Amazon associate database called AMZ Rolodex. And so now that's what I use to identify Amazon influencers. Huge time saver. It's not even worth talking about the way I used to do it, because this is 10x faster, 10x cheaper, the proper way to find influencers. So part 1 of this hack, find your Amazon influencers. Part 2 is when you communicate with them, you're going to be asking them to use your Amazon attribution link to create their affiliate link. And they should know what this is, but basically in Associates Central, which is the Amazon Associates equivalent of Seller Central, they have the ability to insert the destination URL for anything that they are promoting. So what you give them is your attribution link, and then they spit out, or Associates Central will spit out an attribution link, a short URL that is tagged with their associate tag and your attribution tag. And if you're watching live, you can kind of see that I tweeted about this, maybe 6 or 7 months back. The long link is complicated. It's never something that you would post socially, but when it gets shortened, it's simple. It's a simple amzn.to / 6 or 7 digit code link that those associates can then use. So what that means and why it's important is Amazon influencers, they get a commission on sales that they drive. With attribution, you as a brand get a 10% kickback from Amazon. There's a lot of free money flowing around there. So what I like to do with this, in addition to tagging my associates with my attribution links, is sweeten the pot for them. If I'm getting 10% back from Amazon, I might offer my associates an additional 5% commission on top of the 5 that they're getting from Amazon, just as a way of building a relationship, incentivizing them to push my link, my brand over others. So the hack here is driving traffic through Amazon influencers at the end of the day, but there's a couple intermediate steps involving identifying influencers and really sweetening the pot for them by using attribution in here.
Amazing.
Hack number 3 is avoiding stockouts by avoiding fulfillment centers with backlogs. Now, this is super important as we head into Q4, when backlogs are the rule, not the exception. Some are worse than others, especially as you get to September, late September, and a lot of shipments from China are landing in Southern California. So I've dealt with this countless times over the years until I finally said, enough's enough. We need to figure out a workaround. And the workaround is a great little software called ShipmentmakerPro. You do not have to be a subscriber to ShipmentmakerPro to use this. But the basic hack is, step 1, you're going to go to ShipmentmakerPro.com /FC Scorecard. And that'll take you to a page where, again, you don't have to be a subscriber. You can see real-time data on every Amazon fulfillment center in the US, or they actually, I think, cover the UK and a few other countries, but we'll focus on the US. You can see the basic inbound performance data, inbound receiving data for all Amazon fulfillment centers in the US. And I have a snapshot here on the screen of what the data looks like, but it gives you average check-in times for delivered to check-in, average receiving times from checked in to receiving, as well as the longest times. And so what I will do when I'm booking a shipment and Amazon routes me to a particular FC, especially at this time of year, is I will go look at the FC scorecard. I'm based in Chicago. If MDW8 in Waukegan, Illinois has a massive backlog for check-ins for receiving based on other shipments, I'm going to avoid that FC. And I'm going to route my shipment to another FC, ideally within the same geographic area, so I'm not getting hurt on freight costs. But nevertheless, I'm going to try to optimize for inventory that gets checked in and received quicker so that I don't go out of stock. Out of stock, I've kind of lumped into this traffic category because you can't get traffic, or you can't get traffic that converts if you don't have an offer that can be bought, right? You can't sell what you don't have. So the idea here is that you're just being smart about where you're routing your inventory. And I guess if your second level question is, how do you route your inventory? There's a handful of other hacks for that. I'll just say that ShipmentmakerPro is a really useful tool if you want to take greater control over where and when you inbound inventory to Amazon FCs.
John, I actually had a Q&A session literally last night talking about this. And I think one thing that we've always seen this with Amazon the last couple of years, really since COVID, which is, there's backlogs at certain times a year. And it's usually those spike seasons where there's a lot of sales or a lot of returns. What's been weird though, is in these periods where there really isn't any significant volume, we still had congestion. So I would imagine that this Q4 specifically, because Amazon has reduced their footprint and plan to roll out new warehouses, they've got less staff, they're looking at operational cost cuts. It's going to get pretty stuffy. And I think it gets worse when you stack Prime Day, which was just announced for October. So you're going to have a spike in sales there. You're going to have a spike in returns, which ties up their staff. Then you've got Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then you've obviously got Q4 season. So I think that thinking through logistics and how do you seamlessly and efficiently get your goods into Amazon so you avoid those stockouts is clutch. And I think this is something I've never heard of. So this is going to be huge for Q4 2023.
This is so significant that there are service providers that will help you out as a brand and kind of take over the whole routing headache for you. But yeah, you're right. It's about to get really messy within the kind of fulfillment network, because between October Prime Day and the cutoffs for sending goods in there, after any event day, most people don't know this, but Amazon prioritizes outbound versus inbound because, of course, they want to get all the products that were ordered on Prime Day out to customers fast. So really the 5 to 7 days after an event, you're not going to see a lot of freights get received by Amazon FCs. It's just kind of a period internally. This was a great way to manage things, but on the outside, it's very difficult to have your truck sitting there for days or weeks on end. But Amazon, of course, always optimizes for the customer experience. Hack number 4, we're still in traffic. This is to activate a program called Instock Headstart to improve availability. This is a program that Amazon launched, I want to say 2 years ago, but I haven't heard many people talk about it, shockingly. Instock Headstart, in a nutshell, is a program whereby if you use an Amazon partnered carrier and that partnered carrier has your cartons, they have your pallets, no matter where they are, maybe they're on I-94, maybe they're sitting in the lot of a fulfillment center, Amazon will give you credit for that stock being viable, being available for customers. The way this looks from a customer-facing perspective is I might be buying this set of headphones. If the merchant has Instock Headstart activated, but these headphones are sitting in a truck outside an FC, what Amazon will do is they will let me as the customer buy the headphones and give me what's called a delayed delivery promise. So rather than the standard same day, 1 day, 2 day, it might be 2 weeks from now, but it's still buyable. So this is a program that's great when you're in a pinch, when you have to choose between not booking any sales or maybe booking fewer sales at a poorer conversion rate than you would otherwise have. In almost every case, you want to take the sales. What I have seen, I have this activated for every offer, every brand that I own. When your products start to show a delayed delivery promise, your conversion does take a hit. I've seen conversion rates drop by as much as 1,000 basis points, going from, say, 30% to 20%. But most of the time, Amazon catches up on the delivery promises pretty quickly. The goods just get received. And you're better off with this activated than being out of stock when you get no traffic.
Never heard of that one. That's huge.
Instock Headstart is very cool. And if you search in Seller Central, search in your settings, you can pull up the help page. It's a fulfillment setting on the back end that you just toggle on. It really doesn't make sense to not use it unless you don't use partnered carrier, in which case you do not get credit for having products in trucks or in transit. We're moving on from traffic now to average order value, right? Remember, retail math, traffic, conversion, average order value. Average order value itself is a function of price times the number of units that people buy in a given shopping session. But the hack here, hack 5 for average order value, is to use search query performance shipping speed data to identify the best ASINs for Prime exclusive discounts. This one was super cool. I'm sort of proud of myself for figuring this out, because for a long time I was maybe underinformed, misinformed, had some foggy thinking around the shipping speed data in search query performance. But a couple of months back, I was diving into it deeper and just had a eureka moment. I wrote about this in my newsletter. We'll spare everyone the full kind of rundown here, but the basic premise is this. Shipping speed data in search query performance shows for a given search term, at what level of the funnel are customers being shown or buying products with 1 day shipping speed, 2 day shipping speed, same day shipping speed. And the failure in my thinking in the beginning was that I thought this was specific to my brand, or my ASINs. When I dug into the data and kind of challenged that assumption, what I realized was that Amazon is showing shipping speed for an entire search term for the entire market. That's important because what you can infer from that, what you can infer from shipping speed, is the relative proportion of prime versus non-prime customers for a given search term. Prime customers are almost universally shown same day, 1 day, 2 day shipping speeds. Non-prime customers are not. Amazon contextualizes every customer search. And most people maybe know this intuitively, right? If you're searching Amazon and you're logged in, it's a different experience than if you're not logged into your Prime account. It's a different experience if you're VPN'd into Seattle versus VPN'd into Chicago. So Amazon contextualized searches, but the one consistency in the contextualization is that Prime members are shown faster shipping speeds. What you're doing in this hack, first of all, is isolating what keywords or what ASINs is there a larger proportion of Prime customers than non-Prime customers. In situations where you have, say, an ASIN, what I have on the screen is this Amazfit Cheetah smartwatch. If this were an ASIN where the lion's share of the search volume is coming from Prime customers, the lion's share of the purchases are coming from Prime customers, this is a great candidate for a Prime exclusive discount. Prime exclusive discounts display differently to Prime customers versus non-Prime customers. Non-Prime customers, in particular, deal with a little extra friction in checkout, which is what I have up here on the screen. You can see kind of in the buy box that there's a big blue button to join Prime. That causes a lot of attrition in searches. It causes a lot of abandonment. Customers might see an attractive price, but then when they have to take the extra step of becoming a Prime member, especially if it's not around a marquee event like Prime Day, they're going to abandon this product. They're going to abandon this search. But if you're a Prime customer, that $204 is what's in your buy box. And there's some messaging around it alerting you to the fact that you're getting this because you're a Prime member, but it's frictionless. And that's the point here. You want to use Prime exclusive discounts strategically. You want to use it in spots in your business where you are most likely to see an uptick in click-through, conversion, and purchases. And that's all really contingent on the ratio of Prime to non-Prime customers.
Man, that's an interesting one because literally that was one of the columns I just thought was a total and complete waste of time. Never much paid attention to it until I did see your newsletter on that. So pretty amazing that you dug through what I thought was basically a nebulous column within Amazon and using it for leverage and really instigating volume that wouldn't otherwise be there. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I was blown away, Adam. And I kicked myself because for the longest time, like you, I was just ignoring the data. I was hiding the columns because I didn't even want to look at it. There wasn't anything actionable about it until I kind of put two and two together, did the math. Yeah, it's an amazing little hack. Chugging right along. Hack number 6, we're still average order value. This is more of a pricing hack. Again, I wrote about this a couple weeks back. But the hack is you can determine the exact price that you need to recover the buy box on your listing. So this hack applies when you have your buy box suppressed. And there are a whole host of reasons that your buy box can be suppressed. A lot of sellers, a lot of multi-channel sellers will deal with a buy box suppression for competitive price matching. Amazon sees your product priced at $20 on Walmart.com, and over on Amazon it's at $22. Well, guess what? You're going to have to price it at $20 on Amazon too. That's competitive price matching. Amazon's actually done a good job being transparent about that. They don't always get the matching right, but they've been transparent. Within your pricing health dashboard in Seller Central, you can see what price you need to hit to recover the buy box for competitive price matching. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is when Amazon suppresses the buy box, it's not due to a competitive price match, and you don't really know what it's due to. Seller support is, of course, not giving you answers. I had the boilerplate response from them committed to memory at one point because I was dealing with it so often. But you're left in this situation of having to lower your price until you get the buy box back. And it's a guessing game. And it's a dangerous guessing game because if you lower it by increments that are too large, you're maybe giving up more margin than you need to. Or if you're lowering it by increments of 1 penny, you're going to be doing that for a long time and losing sales along the way. With this hack, the first step is really looking at the back end of your ASIN. And the way that you're going to do that is using what I call the AJAX link. AJAX is actually just the internal name that Amazon came up with to kind of build the back end of this particular system. Amazon does this all the time. comes up with fun names. I guess that's a perk of being a software dev at Amazon. But the core premise of this is that with the Ajax link, you can see the actual script that's running in the back end of your product. You can see a lot of metadata, basically all the JSON script that informs what displays on the customer-facing site. To use the Ajax link, you need to be logged into your Seller Central account. You need to input your ASIN. You can't use this to spy on other ASINs anymore, unfortunately. That used to exist, but Amazon closed that loophole. But right now, what happens is when you put your ASIN into the Ajax link, you get a large page full of script, which is somewhat hard to read, somewhat hard to decipher. You can use a Chrome extension that will organize the JSON script a little more legibly. But regardless of whether you use that, the key to this hack is searching for specific language related to the buy box. And for those watching, I have a screenshot of how I did this to diagnose a buy box issue with a client ASIN. But essentially what you're going to search for is FMA underscore buy box underscore constraint. And that phrase, if there is a buy box constraint, a price constraint on your listing that is resulting in the buy box being suppressed, that phrase should reveal what the price is that is the exact price you need to get the buy box back. This script is super cool because it gives a little insight into just internal Amazon naming culture. FMA stands for Featured Merchant Algorithm. That's the internal name for the buy box at Amazon. So by understanding that and then searching for that specific script in the backend Ajax code, you can figure out what the exact price that you need to get the buy box back is. Again, doesn't work for every buy box suppression type. This is one tool of many that you can use to diagnose why you might have lost the buy box. But in a weird way, it's really cool when it appears because you suddenly have keys to the castle. You have the map to get the buy box back at the exact spot that you need it.
And John, just I think one of the key applications there for folks that aren't a big retailer with a bunch of people jumping on the buy box, but one of the things that I think is very common is you start, say, with a launch price. Let's say that your target price is $30. You launch at $19.99. You want to get that initial volume, new release badge, all that stuff, and then you slowly creep the price up. I've always said start around $1 or call it 5 to 7% of your product price and just do that every couple of days. By using the script, then, are you basically saying that exactly the price increments that you can increase your price by without losing the buy box?
Yeah, if you get a buy box suppression related to just basically your pricing history, then this script, it doesn't work 100% of the time. So that's why I call it a tool in your kit. But oftentimes when I have a client or a product of my own that is suppressed because I've exceeded a pricing guardrail, I'll go in here and I'll figure out what the pricing guardrail is.
Awesome.
All right, moving right along. We're almost at the halfway point. Hack number 7, and we're jumping into the kind of conversion section of these road trip hacks. Hack number 7 is to adjust your main image to a 5:6 ratio, in particular if the majority of your customers are mobile shoppers. So what this means, most brands, most products have kind of a 1000 by 1000 pixel main image, or maybe a 2000 by 2000 if you really went high res with it. But 1000 by 1000, 2000 by 2000, that's a 1-to-1 ratio image. That's a square image. Problem is that renders very poorly on mobile. Whether you have an iPhone or an Android device, images get elongated because your phone is not a square, right? It's a rectangle. So with a 5:6 ratio, and I've tested a few different ratios, but this seems to be the sweet spot. By using a 5:6 ratio and say uploading a 1500 by 1800 pixel image, it'll show up better in mobile than 1500 by 1500 or a 1-to-1 ratio. This is, again, very helpful if the majority of your customers are mobile shoppers, which now, thanks to the new business report data that Amazon released, 2 years ago, you can figure out the exact split. Most of your customers are on desktop, don't worry about it. But if, I have a product that is close to 80% mobile shoppers, I optimize that product for the mobile experience, inclusive of my main images, my secondary images, my A+ content, because it helps with click-through, it helps with conversion. All those things have downstream impact on rank. Hack number 8, still in the conversion section. This is an awesome Chrome extension that I discovered about a year and a half ago and I use all the time. Again, this falls into the category of optimizing the mobile shopping experience, especially if you have majority mobile shoppers. There is a Chrome extension called Mobile Cards that you can literally dump in a list of your detail page URLs, and it'll show you the mobile experience in kind of a tiled fashion that you can then scroll through. So the example that I have up on the screen here for those listening at home is 4 products from the brand Lumi, which is part of the Harry's brand or the Harry's family of brands, and can very quickly see what the mobile shopping experience is for those 4 products. So I'll do this across, an entire brand that I own, just to kind of regularly make sure that I'm optimizing for mobile. Again, and especially if that brand is one that has a large majority of mobile shoppers. I can't emphasize enough that, number one, meet your customers where they are. And if it's mobile, make sure you're optimized for mobile. But number 2, I think it's really just important to think mobile first. This is a trend that, or maybe a principle, if you will, that was hammered into my head when I first started in Amazon, 8 years ago. And I think it was something straight out of the mind of Jeff Bezos. He pushed teams to optimize for mobile. And like many other things, he was prescient. More and more customers shop mobile. I think that trend is not going to stop. So the better positioned you are to efficiently walk your Amazon products, walk your Amazon stores from a mobile perspective, the better you'll do. All right. Hack number 9, still on conversion. This is an AI tool. The hack is to use an AI tool called Oxalo to create videos for your PDPs in less than 15 minutes. So I discovered Oxalo, I think, just from an AI newsletter that I subscribe to. And I'm sure, like me, Adam, you subscribe to a few of them and try to learn as much as you can about what is really very cool tech, really transformative tech. Oxalo was one that I just kind of happened upon one day and was really pleasantly surprised that it seemed like it was almost designed for Amazon sellers without kind of marketing themselves that way. The user interface, if you go to Oxalo, I don't know if it's .ai or .com, I have it bookmarked, but essentially you can put an Amazon URL into the main page, and in the course of 5 or 7 minutes, the site, the tool will basically scan your Amazon listing and create a video. You can kind of define the length. I don't like videos more than 30 seconds because of people's attention spans, but it'll push out at least a 30-second, 45-second video using the content from your detail page and using the imagery from your detail page, which is super cool. The video itself, let's set our expectations, right? Because you're doing nothing other than putting in the URL of your product and letting the AI work. So it's essentially a slideshow with a voiceover, AI voiceover, using the content on your detail page. I think of this as a very powerful lever for 2 reasons. Number 1, as I've kind of called out in this slide here, videos tend to produce somewhere around a 10% sales lift per product. This is data that I was privy to internally at Amazon for many years and had to keep quiet about, but I think recently Amazon kind of messaged that in talking about premium A+ content. So now that the cat's out of the bag, I can say videos do tend to produce about a 10% sales lift, which means if you have a product that does not have a video, you're leaving money on the table. Even if you don't have a spectacular video, you're leaving money on the table. The leverage point here is get a video very quickly, very inexpensively, and tap into that 10% sales lift. And then if you start to see traction with the ASIN, you can go and do a properly produced video. But I think of this as a tool for all my mid-tail, my long-tail ASINs, where I would never spend money for an outside vendor to create video. I probably wouldn't even spend money for an influencer, a creator to spend video. They are not, these products are not worth it. But nevertheless, I'm going to squeeze every dollar out of that product I can. For my money, this is a tool that can make a video for you, a very simple video, but a video nevertheless in the span of 5 minutes. The subscription to the tool itself, I think, costs about $15 a month or maybe even $15 a year. It's super cheap. And kind of bing, bang, boom, you can produce videos for all your long tail ASINs and tap into the lift that you get from video. At the end of the day, the key message here is Video on your product detail page is better than not having video. And whether it's a 10% sales lift or a 1% sales lift, what I always say to people, whether it's peers, clients, whoever, if there's a lift, you should take it. And let's not parse over whether it's a 10% or 1%. Take the free money. Hack number 10. We are still in the conversion section, but this is one that comes up all the time in different groups that I'm in. Adam, I think a fair number of people in your community have talked about this before. The hack here, or the frustration here that I think a lot of sellers have run into, is Amazon will buy returned damaged inventory from you, and then they will sell it on your listing as an Amazon warehouse product. Now, I know, most sellers know that an Amazon warehouse offer is not your offer. And the unfortunate part of that, though, is most customers don't. And so what you risk when Amazon is selling your products, your damaged products through warehouse goods, even though they label it used like new or used good, even though they attach a condition type to it, most customers do not know that they're buying from warehouse deals, that they're buying a used product. And you suffer the consequences when they have a bad experience, when they leave a negative review. It's an unfortunate system, but it's the system that we live in. So the hack here is that there's actually a new program. It was in beta as of last winter, but it's starting to get more opened up. And certainly if you have a SaaS core rep, you can get enrolled. But the program is called FBA Damaged Optout. And I have a screenshot here for those listening at home. It's in your fulfillment settings. And essentially what this program does is you are opting out of Amazon grading your returned, possibly damaged inventory, and then selling it under their warehouse deals label. Now, of course, there's a risk here that you're getting good inventory sent back to you because it would be otherwise saleable and otherwise inventory that you could recover some value on by letting Amazon reimburse you for it and sell it under warehouse deals. But oftentimes the cost of that is outweighed by the cost of a negative review that would come from warehouse deals selling one of your customers a very damaged product. FBA Damaged Optout. If you have a SaaS core rep, make sure you ask him or her about it. You can also just kind of search for it and see if it's been enabled in your account. It was enabled in one of mine, so that's why I have this screenshot. But FBA Inventory Evaluation Settings is, I think, kind of the search term that you'll use to figure out if you can do this. The cool part is that you can get super surgical with this, and you can opt out of damaged resales on an ASIN level. So you don't have to categorically say all or nothing for your brand, which is good because some products, maybe you do want the money from Amazon and then you don't care if they sell it under warehouse deals.
Never heard of that one. That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool stuff. It was in beta last fall, like I said, last winter. Worth getting into if you can. All right, hack number 11. Still in the conversion section here. And the hack is to earn list price strike-through and a 3.9% sales lift by setting standard equal to list and running 24-hour coupons at 50% off. Now, the numbers there you can play around with, but the basic gist of this is price strike-throughs improve conversion. They improve click-through. This is something that I think is pretty commonly known in at least the Amazon seller practitioner community. But nevertheless, I see a lot of products day in, day out that don't have list price strike-throughs. Now, part of the problem is that an ASIN doesn't have a list price on the back end. So step number 1, go populate your list price field, your MSRP, get that reference price in there. Step number 2, though, and this is where the hack comes into play, Amazon does not automatically honor your list price as a real price, at least not anymore. And this is an unfortunate consequence of a lot of sellers gaming the system for years back in the 20 teens. I saw this in my consumer electronics category all the time. A set of Bluetooth headphones would have a list price of $99, but these were sellers that were selling it for $29 all the time. That was the price history. And Amazon kind of got wise to that and said, if you're going to populate your listing with a list price, it has to be a real price. It has to be your price on non-Amazon channels, or it has to be validated with some sales on Amazon. And that's where this hack comes in. We're going to validate that list price for Amazon so that then they will give you that strike through and you get the bump from conversion. So I have an example here. This is actually just straight from the help documentation. It shows a list price of $19.99 struck through and then a standard price or everyday price of $14.99. What I would suggest in order to get that list price strike through then is, number one, make sure you have $19.99 on the back end. Number two, for a 24-hour period, or maybe 48 hours if that's how long you need to book a couple sales, for that period, you set your standard price equal to your list price. So your standard and list should be $19.99, and then you coupon it deeply. I like 50%. You could go even deeper. The point is you want to get sales. And I suggest coupons because coupons are not 100% redeemed. So you're going to attract customers with a 50% off coupon. Some of them will forget to redeem it, so you will book sales at your actual price, and now you have those data points on the Amazon backend that Amazon will honor and in turn give you strike through. Moving on to the product costs section. So we went through retail math, traffic, conversion, price. Now we're kind of moving down the P&L into our cost base, and specifically talking about product costs here with hack number 12. The hack is to cut your return rate by 50%, I think, is conservative or more, with a program called Product Lifecycle Support. There's an interesting history with this program that kind of dovetails my time at Amazon. The basic program is this. When you use FBA, Amazon handles customer support. That's one of the reasons that you're using FBA. You want them to handle logistics, fulfillment, storage, and customer support. Problem is, a lot of times Amazon gets it wrong. A lot of times the support experience is subpar, especially if you have a product that is technical in nature or has some setup instructions. You do not want Amazon CS to be guiding customers through that. Now, Amazon knew this, and the timeline escapes me. I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm not going to speak to it. But Amazon knew this, and on the vendor side, for a long time, they had this product lifecycle support feature active. Brands could speak directly with customers and provide post-sale support on Amazon 1P items. Around the time that I was at Amazon, there were discussions of launching this for 3P. And those discussions languished for years. It was near and dear to my heart because in consumer electronics, this was a big deal. You know, I can't tell you how many brands that I worked with selling something like a Bluetooth speaker had good speakers returned because customers just couldn't find out the pairing, right? And a little post-sale support would have eliminated those returns. A lot of times it was an easy fix. It's just the brands couldn't talk directly to customers. So that was kind of the thinking behind product lifecycle support and the history. The good news is in, probably the past 2 years, it's been rolled out to 3P more broadly. And there is a self-service option. What I have on the screen for those listening at home is a snapshot from Seller Central Help that describes the program, how you can enroll in it, the different types or subtypes of the program that you can enroll in, depending on what much post-purchase interaction you want to have with customers. But you can self-service enroll, which is huge, because if you have a lot of returns, returns for controllable reasons that if you talk to the customer, you could likely resolve it on your own, this is a great program for you. But it gets better. One of the reasons I know about this is because there's a company that I don't think is talked about enough called Onsite. Onsite, give them a ton of credit. They pushed the envelope with Amazon to get Amazon to launch the PLS program broadly for third-party sellers. Onsite did that, and in parallel, they built a program where they will not only build you kind of a post-purchase flow to make sure that customer support is triaged effectively, but they will also manage a lot of that for you, help you create SOPs, help you create scripts, help you create chatbots that will interact with customers based on your SOPs. So you should check out Onsite. It's not super cheap. There's a setup fee of a few $100s and then kind of an ongoing $100 or $200 a month based on the number of brands that they're covering for you. If you have problems with returns, and if you see in a lot of those returns that the return reasons were controllable and you could have basically preempted them by communicating with the customer, look up product life cycle support in Seller Central and apply to enroll in it. Or shortcut all of that, work with Onsite. They're awesome. It'll cost you a little bit more than the self-service option, but they know their stuff. They were really the ones that pushed this over the line and got it really launched for the 3P community.
And John, just so I understand this properly, do customers reach out via email and or chat, or do you have to have a phone function as well? What's the mechanism?
It can be either. And I should have included a screenshot of the customer experience. But if you're a customer and you're looking through your order history, there's a big bright button that basically directs them to contact brand for support. And that then routes the contact to you in your desired path. This is a really cool one. Fortunately, a lot of my products don't have super high return rates, but for some of my clients, particularly in the electronic space, we got them enrolled in this. Moving along, hack number 13. We're now talking about platform costs. This is a platform cost because this relates to your PPC. I think every seller, certainly every seller that's been around, runs their PPC spend through a credit card. Those reward points, man, right? Whether you're doing cashback or travel, you want your PPC that you're spending a few thousand or maybe tens of thousands a month on hitting those credit cards and you getting the cashback or the rewards. But what can be annoying, particularly from a cash flow management perspective, is Amazon will default basically every seller to hitting your credit card with a $500 charge every time $500 of PPC spend is accrued. That's the default. I don't know where it came from, but it is what it is. And so this hack is to increase your PPC ad spend limit with Amazon to extend your payback period by 30 days or more. Put differently, Amazon doesn't have to charge your credit card every time $500 gets hit. That number is flexible. Many sellers, many brands do not know this. You can ask for a higher limit so that instead of Amazon hitting your card every time $500 is accrued, they hit your card maybe every time $2,500 is accrued. And I've modeled out the impact of this on your cash flow on the slide here. For the people listening, let's say that you spend $1,000 or $2,000 on PPC every month. That's $500 a week for 4 weeks. In a scenario where you have a $500 ad spend limit, week 1, Amazon charges your card for $500, week 2 for $500, and so on and so forth. Your credit card statement cuts off at the end of week 4, and then you typically have 30 days to pay off your credit card. So you are paying that $2,000 in ad spend in week 9. Now consider the alternative. You ask Amazon for an increase to your ad spend limit, say to $2,500. You're still spending $500 a week, but now they aren't charging your credit card until you've accrued $2,500, which based on that ad spend run rate is in week 5, after your credit card cycle has closed. So now that $2,500 gets pushed to your next credit card cycle, and you're effectively getting an incremental 30 days, 4 weeks, whatever you want to call it, of carry or float on those first 4 weeks of ad spend, simply because you're telling Amazon not to charge your credit card right away. This is sort of Amazon, this is sort of you getting payment terms with Amazon in a way that isn't, I would never frame it as that to Amazon, but they're extending you payment terms. That's essentially what they're doing. So it's a cool way to just extend your cash flow cycles a little bit by understanding your ad spend run rate and what Amazon will do if you ask.
It's amazing, man. It's funny. I'd never heard of this before but I do know very well the notifications I get on my phone, again, using the credit card hack to make points and travel for free of like every day. It's like $501.48. I get the pop-up all the time. So it's really cool that you can adjust that amount. Never heard of that before. That's huge.
Charging through home stretch here, hack number 14, and we're talking about profit and free cash flow. We're finally at the bottom of the P&L here. Hack number 14 is to use a service called Landing Cube, or software rather, called Landing Cube to qualify and tag traffic and get customer emails. So I have this kind of in the profit free cash flow section because this is really about customer relationships, your customer acquisition cost, and your customer lifetime value. I love having customer emails. For the longest time as a seller, I ignored that in my businesses. It was probably within the past 9-12 months that I really started using Landing Cube in earnest to pull in outside traffic, get the information of that traffic as customers, and then use that to build a list that I could then remarket to down the line.
So John, just so I understand the workflow, do you actually email folks and or typically use the pixel data to, I know you may do both, but in the case of email, if that's an application, I know that in the US, this is less of an issue, but for folks that haven't opted in and you basically scrape their email and you send them an email, has that impacted your open rates, your delivery rates of email, et cetera? Is there a risk that if you put in, say, 50% of people on your email list that haven't actually opted in, does that impact your email deliverability at all? Do you know?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll back up a little and say these emails that I'm getting are from customers that have opted in.
Got it. Okay.
So you can design the flow, you can provide an incentive in exchange for their email, and now you kind of have permission. I candidly use the pixel retargeting more than the email marketing. I like email marketing mostly for product launches, and I like to send deep discounts or promo codes with deep discounts to those customers to kind of bring them back into the fold. But there's something comforting about building up a nice little email list, even if you don't capitalize upon it. It's a good asset to have that if you put some effort into, you can really yield some great results.
Cool.
Final hack here, hack 15, still in the profit free cash flow section. This is simply a warning, perhaps, that there are cheaper inventory funding options for your business than I think a lot of sellers are led to believe by the marketing that's out there. There are companies like Clearco, Wayflyer. I don't want to name the others. I talked about them a lot in my newsletter, but they offer great funding. They offer quick funding, but it's expensive. And I think it's easy to get lost in the marketing. It's easy to get lost in the speed. But when you sit down and do the math, these are not sustainable long-term options for your business. They can get you through a stretch. They can certainly be a learning experience. But if you want to run a sustainably profitable inventory-based business going forward, you need to have cheaper inventory funding options, many of which come through traditional lenders. And that therein kind of lies the rub. It is often hard for an e-commerce business, especially one with maybe a year, 2 years of history, to get a traditional line of credit from a bank. Just doesn't happen. So you have to get a little creative to unlock those cheaper sources of funding. One option, particularly if you've maybe acquired an Amazon business using an SBA loan, there's what's called an SBA 7A Express line of credit, which is a line of credit partially guaranteed by the government up to $500K that is specifically intended for working capital for inventory. And the rates are super cheap. It's basically half the rate of a credit card. It's prime plus, some spread, but it amounts to maybe 8-9% interest. And it's a traditional line of credit product. It is not revenue-based funding. So you only pay interest on what you've actually drawn upon. Another option, and this is a newer one that candidly I'm just starting to experiment with my business, really depends on your risk tolerance, but there is a financial product with most people's banks called a securities-based loan. And it's essentially a collateralized loan that if, say, you have a stock portfolio, I have Amazon stock. I don't necessarily want to sell it to fund inventory, but I'll borrow against it, especially because my bank will offer me kind of mortgage type rates on an SBL loan. So if I have a best-selling product that I know I'm going to move through and I just want to finance it in a cheap way, I'll take out an SBL loan and finance it at basically a 5-6% interest rate under kind of a traditional loan product and pay it back. I have no concern about the underlying safety of the securities that I borrowed against because, again, I'm using it for inventory that I know moves. I'm using it for my hero products. Again, really depends on your risk appetite. Sometimes I get a little crazy and a little more ambitious with my business. But the message here, the hack here that I don't want lost on people is that there are other funding options outside of the Clearcos, the Wayflyers, the 8figs of the world.
Yeah, and actually Danny and I think Brandon Young jumped on for a really engaging conversation about loans for SBA or for Amazon sellers. Hour-long chat. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. But I consider myself relatively smart. I came from a heavy corporate background, did a lot of M&A, know my way around spreadsheets and financials. And some of these companies one in particular that I won't name, I sat with for 2 hours and I literally could not understand it and I could not get them to give me the effective interest rate.
Yeah.
The so what of this is that the way that they write it up due to regulations, it's very difficult to piece together what the actual interest is. But what it ends up being for most cases is in the 20-ish% range, somewhere between 18 and 25%. So let's say that your COGS are 30% of your product price. Maybe you got a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher. You plug in 20%, that's basically 6% cost adder to your business. So imagine we spend so much time as Amazon sellers on pay-per-click. Like, how do I get my tacos from 60% down to 10? you might have spent 6 months shaving it down to 10% tacos. Now you've just added 6% back just because you've taken out a loan. So I think this stuff is powerful. I don't think there's enough knowledge about this in the space. And I think these are two options I certainly haven't heard of before that I think are incredibly interesting, John. It's awesome.
Yeah. Interest rate math is super hard. And you have a finance background. I have a finance background. I still have to sit down and run the numbers because some of the lending products are marketed very cleverly. And what I've often found outside of these is Amazon lending is actually one of the more attractive options out there. Unsurprising because they're passing through their size and the preferential cost of capital that they have in a way. So,
well, dude, this was incredible. Most of these I'd never heard of. I'm sure the audience feels the same way, both listening and watching. You're a stud, man. I love you. You're one of the best in the space. Everything that you put out, I pay keen attention to because it's always got a ton of value. You're awesome on LinkedIn. That's where I see a lot of your stuff. John Derkits on LinkedIn. You've also got a Twitter account. Maybe plug your Twitter account as well as if you want nuggets like this literally on, I think, a weekly basis through John's newsletter. He'll talk about it now and we'll leave links down below.
Thank you, Adam. Again, I'm not sure I'm deserving of all that, but I like to put out content. I like to educate. I like to just talk shop with the broader community. One of the ways I do that is on LinkedIn. That's probably the oldest way. I've been doing that for years. Started to engage with Twitter more. I have kind of a weird handle. It's Bearded Egg FBA. There's a story behind that. I might change it back to my name. We'll see. Or at Guy Fossil, which is also a very hard thing to find or spell, but you can find it on my LinkedIn profile. The other big thing that I'm doing just to share knowledge in the community is I started a newsletter that I call Best at Amazon. Best at Amazon is not any, pat on my back for thinking that I'm smarter than the average seller. I don't think that at all. What it refers to actually is when I was at Amazon, we had metrics in our deck that were classified best at Amazon, worst at Amazon. So I ran Amazon Canada, the consumer electronics category in Canada, and my category was compared to the US, to France, to Italy, to Spain. You didn't want your metrics to be one of the worst at Amazon. You wanted to be in the best at Amazon column. So it's a little tip of the hat to that. But yeah, I share the tactics that I use in my business. I share the things that I don't want to be too public about. It's a fun little intellectual project of mine. And then one other thing I'll maybe share with the group here before we break is a little while back, I was working with a lot of smaller clients and was kind of triaging the same questions over and over, and was also recognizing that there was a gap that existed in kind of their level of sophistication that I needed to bridge. And so naturally, I kind of thought, how can I bridge the gap in knowledge and experience in a scalable way? So I just built a central location of kind of a curated set of resources in the Amazon space that check the boxes on all the key foundational knowledge blocks that I think a seller needs. And Adam, there's a ton of your stuff in there. In fact, I just updated it today with that awesome video that you posted about Pixel Me. But I keep this mostly up to date. I make it free. It's available on Gumroad. Like Adam said, we'll put the link in the show notes. But it's my way of shrinking the universe of information out there because it's really hard. I mean, there's probably 3-4 dozen really good YouTube channels. There's dozens of good podcasts. There's articles everywhere. There's email newsletters. So I want to make it a little easier for people. So Amazon private label pathway, feel free to hit up the Gumroad link. It'll give you access to the Notion page. I keep it pretty fresh, pretty current. And like I said, you can find some of Adam's best stuff there too. Hopefully I picked the best stuff. I'll let him tell me if I'm wrong on that.
Love it, dude. Well, I'm the same way as you. I think that attention and consumption is difficult sometimes, and sometimes it feels like work when you're just listening, watching to stuff. But find people in the space that matter, that consolidate information, that are hyper intelligent, that are focused, that do things for the right reasons matter a lot. You're one of those people. We're going to include down in the links below, both in the show notes and on YouTube, a link to these slides if you guys want a refresher of those, a link to John's newsletter, which literally right after this you need to go sign up for. It's incredible. Links to connect with John, and then links to this resource that's donation based. It could be free, or if you want to throw a little bit of thank you tip money to John for that kind of mini course information. But dude, you're an absolute legend. I always learn a ton from you. Appreciate everything that you do for me and others in the space, man. I'm sure we'll have you on again, but until then, it was a pleasure sitting down and chat with you, man.
Yeah, likewise, Adam. Loved being here.
Awesome.